Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining. I'm Yogesh. I'm a product strategy professional with experience in building and scaling digital products, setting up fintech ecosystems, product management, and digital marketing. I started my career as a software engineer for Verizon. Later, with one of the biggest telecom firms in India, I led strategic projects aimed at fastening the pace of digitization in the country by building and scaling digital platforms. I'm currently boosting customer conversion at Zalando SC by driving improved customer convenience at every stage of the online shopping experience. I'll take you through a complex problem that I recently worked on, a real world problem that needed a digital solution, a product led solution. Product management differs in every firm. The responsibilities of a product manager differ in different organizations. There are places where you might be working on an existing product in an effort to improve customer conversion or keeping the engagement level high. Then there are roles where you're tasked with finding solutions to existing problems, and you might end up building a new product or a subsidiary product itself. There are product managers who work on customer facing products, and then there are product managers who work on platforms. Everyone is solving different problems and is facing different kind of challenges. With that being said, the basic tools available to a product manager remain the same, and the fundamental skills required for the role remain the same as well. With this webinar, I want to take you through a case where I worked on a project where defining the real problem was extremely essential. A product entrepreneur, for the scope of this discussion, is somebody who is venturing into unknown waters. It can be a startup founder or a person who is working on a problem that is not the core competency of their firm. And hence, they need to work like an entrepreneur to see if they're solving the right problem. Is there a market for the solution that they're proposing? And what is the best way to take this solution to the customers? And so on. They cannot go to someone in their firm and gain from their expertise. It's a new kind of problem that requires a different way of understanding the customer. Mantras don't usually work in all situations, and I urge you not to feel obliged to use any frameworks that I've used here. There is one thing which I've found to be helpful in all cases. Whenever you feel that you don't know the answer, always go back to your customer. It is the simplest and most robust way of finding an answer. If you have incorporated customer feedback at every stage of the product development process, be it discovery, design, or implementation, then you need not worry about frameworks or knowing all the design principles at all. This webinar is focused on finding the right problem to solve. It is not focused on how to build the best features, how to improve customer conversion, or how to work with different stakeholders. I'm sure you can look up and find some great videos, extremely good videos on these topics. I will rather talk about the discovery phase of the product development process. Every product has a journey which can be broken into four stages: discovery, definition, design, and delivery. We will focus on the first two today. I will not give an abstract guideline to follow, but rather I'll take you through a case that I worked on. Given the majority of audience here are people who are new to product management or are trying to break into product management, I believe that this will help you understand the role of a PM better. A big chunk of this webinar is about knowing what to do before your engineers write a single line of code. And I can share my experience of working on a similar problem, and I hope that it helps you in your endeavors, knowing all too well that no two problems are alike. I hope you guys can see my screen. Now, this is our agenda for today. We will break the session into four different steps: research driven action, finding your USP, launch fast and keep improving, and finally, we'll end up with a summary of the session. This is the product development process that I talked about. Every single product can be divided into four stages of its life: it's discover, define, design, and then deliver. Now, this was the project that I was working on. I was asked to upgrade feature phone customers to smartphones. I'll give you some context about it. I was working with one of the biggest telecom operators in India, and I was asked to upgrade feature phone customers to smartphone. Now, back in 2018, over 300 million customers of all the telcos in India were still using a feature phone. A feature phone usually uses 2G technology, and most of them don't support data usage. Every telecom firm was trying to win a majority share of customers who were using smartphones, but they were also trying to convert their own feature phone base to smartphones. Even the smallest description raises many questions, and we will answer them one by one as we proceed with our session. Let's start with step one, which is research driven action. If someone asks you to do something, there are two ways you can go about it. The first one is you can follow the ask and find out ways of doing it. Secondly, you can try to understand why it needs to be done. It is extremely important for product managers to know that it is their responsibility to choose the second option always, every single time. Always try to understand why something is being asked of you. It will help you build a commercial perspective and it will help you understand the problem better, which can lead you towards an ideal solution. Keep asking why till you get to an actionable. And this is the first stage of solving any problem. This is the first stage of thinking about it even before solving it. Now, the first question that I had after I was given this problem was, why do we want customers to move from feature phone to smartphones? The answer was a simple business logic that the average revenue per feature phone customer was 1.5 euros per month, and the average revenue per smartphone user was $3 per month. So there's a gap of $1.5 per month per customer. The firm that I was working with had about 100 million feature phone customers. So in a way, it was losing 150 million of opportunity every single month. And if I would have been able to work it out, if my solution would have worked, and even if it was 1% successful, then also I would have been able to convert 1 million of customers from feature phones to smartphones, which would have made a difference of $1.5 million per month and $18 million per year. Hence, we see that there's a commercial perspective to it, and this is the reason why this problem needs to be solved. There's clearly a financial advantage to solving this problem. Now, the second question that arises is why there's a gap in the ARPU of both types of customers. ARPU is average revenue per user. Feature phone customers don't use data, and hence they are on a cheaper plan. Hence, they contribute less towards the company's plans. And why don't feature phone customers use data? There are obvious reasons that they don't want to. It's costlier, and there's a angle of affordability to it. But most feature phones also have small screens. They don't support internet applications and social media apps, so they're cheaper, and they don't support internet applications. Some support internet browsers, but the user experience is extremely poor. Now, why do we think upgraders will switch to costly plans? So, if you're asking me to convert customers from feature phones to smartphones, I have to ask that do you believe after converting they will switch to a higher revenue plan? And our internal data showed that feature phone customers used 12 GB data per month starting from the second month of their upgrade. So any feature phone customer who was buying a smartphone from the second month of buying that smartphone, they were giving us roughly $3 per month. They were using an extremely high amount of data. So it works. And if we convert any feature phone customer to smartphone, we can rest assured that the revenue impact will follow soon. Next question was, why are people still using a feature phone in 2018? And we did have some assumptions, there was some speculation about it, but we did not have a clear answer. This was the question where I stopped asking the internal teams, and I knew that we do not have the answer. And until we answer this question, we can never have a solution which works. And we went to our customers. From this question, we went to conduct the first user research, which is identifying the right problem to solve. And the question was, why are people still using feature phone in 2020? And we conducted a research amongst 1,000 feature phone customers. And the results were astonishing. So there were three major reasons why people were still using feature phones in 2020. The first one was affordability, which is an acceptable answer. The second one was durability, and the third one was performance. So affordability was a major answer because a cheapest smartphone cost somewhere around $70 in India. When we say durability, many of the users had seen a smartphone with a broken screen and they thought that this is not a durable enough device. If I'm spending 70, 80, $90 on a device, I don't want it to break so easily. And the third is performance. So these users wanted a device whose battery would last for days and days and days because a feature phone's battery lasted a week or 2 weeks. And they had seen that people with smartphones were always charging their phones. And many of these customers used to live in areas which did not get 24-hour electricity. And hence, this was an important feature for them. We also found out that there was some reasons which we had thought could be one of the major hurdles for the customers, which we found out were not. Like lack of awareness of smartphones or the use cases did not come out as a major reason. And in the past, we had spent a lot of marketing dollar in this, thinking that if we can tell the customers that this is a smartphone and you can do video calls on this and you can chat with your friends and you can learn through online classes. And we thought that if we would just promote the use cases, then the customers would move to smartphones, but that was not the case. Customers were aware of the use cases. We are living in digital age, and customers had seen many people with smartphones using them, and this was not a hurdle for them. They were not unaware of what smartphones can do, and we found out this through this existing research. Now, once we have these three reasons, what can we solve? We cannot solve durability and performance. These are problems for OEMs to solve. These are problems for Samsung, Apple, Xiaomi to solve. We can try to solve affordability by understanding it better. And that's what we did. Now, why is affordability such a problem for these customers? A good feature phone is worth $15 in India, but the cheapest smartphone is worth $70. An average monthly income of over 70% of the population is less than $200 a month. So $70 is not a small amount for this population. Now, why can't customers take a loan for buying this device? If we know that there is clearly a need in the market, if we know that customers want to buy a smartphone, then why are they not able to buy a smartphone? And the answer was that no fintech or bank was providing loans worth $70. We went into the market. We asked the existing fintechs, we asked the banks that there is clearly a market for it. There are millions and millions of customers who want to buy a smartphone and they're not able to buy a smartphone. Then why are you not willing to give them loans? And we found out that there were two major reasons. The first one was the onboarding costs and the recollection costs were too high for the banks for such a small amount. The banks said that we can give a loan worth $70, but the amount we will spend in onboarding that customer and recollecting that money for the customer is too much, and the interests are not going to be worth it. And the second reason was default rates for this customer segment was pretty high. And these are the two major reasons which came out of the study. Now, because we embarked on an extensive user research, we got to the real reasons behind low adoption of smartphones. And an industry deep dive into those reasons helped us find something that we could do to increase adoption. It was because we kept asking questions that we found out that if we remove the collection and onboarding costs of the banks and help them a bit in risk assessment, then they could be persuaded to provide loans to this segment of customers. These actionables could not have come up without us going to the customers and understanding the real problem. Now we know what we can do, where we can contribute. And that's where we move to our second step, which is defining the solution and finding the USP. What can you do? Now we want to know what needs to be done. And the next step would be to define a solution. In how many ways can we solve this problem? We list the ways and we go back to the customer to find the most acceptable solution. For us, the customer was a low income segment customer. and the needs, extremely different. And we need to be aware of the challenges that come with designing a digital journey, a digital solution for digital natives. The solutions listed below or on the next page that I'm going to show you are some of the solutions that we discussed in early phases. Now we know the reasons why a customer is not able to find a bank or a fintech which can give them a loan. There could be many ways of solving this. These are the four early suggestions that came about in our discussion. We could give a subsidy on a phone. That let's tie up with a smartphone brand. Let's provide a subsidy upfront and bind the customers on a long-term telco contract. And the cost of subsidy can be recovered over the customer's lifetime through incremental monthly revenue that we generate from that customer. The second option was a loan, helping the customers procure a loan for the device. In this option, we would tie up with the bank, make a loan dispersal journey through telecom's retailer app, thus removing the onboarding and recollection costs of the financer. So we would onboard the customers through an app which our retailers who are present across the country, which our retailers use. And now we will onboard the customers through that app, and we will also allow them to pay back the money through that app, thus removing both kinds of costs for the financer. And thirdly, we could provide a robust way of risk assessment for these customers. Many of these customers who are coming to take a loan are new to credit, and banks would not have a credit history for them, and they would always reject these customers. But if we could use their telecom history and create some kind of a trust score, then the bank can use that as an input and judge whether this customer is worthy of getting a loan or not. We discussed similar solutions like a lock device, where we can give a subsidy on a phone that is locked on our network. And then there were always some mixed solutions where we can give a loan to the customer, and we can also introduce a lock device, and we can also give a subsidy on the device. So there were these multiple solutions which were discussed. And that's where we went to the customers again. So we knew that there are multiple. Now we have those multiple solutions that we think can be used for this problem. But we have to identify the solution which is the most acceptable one, because the user base is very different for this. They are digital natives who have not used a smartphone ever in their life, and hence we need to go back to our target customer to understand which solution works best for them. Now, who is the target customer for this research? The target customer is obviously a feature phone user, and they're using the same device for last 24 months. This makes them more likely to buy a new device in the coming days. And we can also use an optional filter to target the low-hanging fruits, customers with a monthly average recharge of, let's say, USD $2. The average monthly recharge of feature phone customers is $1.5, but we would target people with a bit who are higher than the average, so that we know that they have more proclivity to buy a smartphone than other users. And we go to these customers to understand which of the 4 or 5 solutions that we had designed could work the best for them. Now, once we went to that customer, we found out that majority of them agreed that an assisted journey at a telecom store would work the best for them. If there was someone at the store who could help them get onboarded on the app, and who could tell them what documents they need to bring, and who could then explain the whole journey to them, that was the best solution for them. And hence we found out that, okay, if we design a journey, a loan dispersal journey on our own telecoms app, then we solve multiple problems. We onboard the customer through our own applications, and we give the customers a way to pay back the loan through our own applications, hence removing these costs for the bank. Nextly, we would obviously have our own staff, our own trained staff to go through the app, and the customers who are digital natives will not have to do anything to get onboarded. And this was a solution which was acceptable to roughly 15% of the customers who we surveyed, who we went to. And now we do have an answer. Now we went to these customers, and we do have an answer of what solution they want. The next question that we need to ask is, what can you offer that your competitors cannot? So firstly, We're introducing an element of risk assessment, a trust score based on customers' telecom package history. Normal fintechs would not have this. So this is clearly an advantage for you. You have a strong presence across the country. You have your own and franchisee stores to guide customers through the journey. A strong promoter presence across the country to guide customers through the journey. Similarly, you can have multiple kinds of USPs, and you need to find out when you're designing this, whether you're working in a firm or whether you're an entrepreneur, you need to find out what is it that you can add additionally to the solution so that it's not very easily replicable. Now we will come to the next and the last stage of the process, which is designing. Now, what do you think when you design the solution? You have to keep at least these three things in mind. First is competition benchmarking. For this project, it was what were the existing loan dispersal journeys out there today. If you're making a different kind of app, if you're making a food delivery app, then you have to research which are the best food delivery applications out there and what is the journey there. Secondly, you have to think about avoiding pitfalls. What are the common pain points in those journeys? What is it that irritates the customers the most, and try to remove that when you're designing your journey? Thirdly, simplification. Can I make a better and simpler journey than what exists in the market? These are the three things which I keep in mind whenever I'm designing a journey. It's up to you what you think of and your process of designing. But the next step is more important than this step. User research 3. Always test the design before committing to it. Now we know that we've done two kinds of user research. First one to understand the problem, and the second one was to see or check the acceptability of the solution. But this user research is also as important as the first two. If the idea is to build a journey on the app, then get the journey tested amongst the users to design a simple and understandable flow. The user in this case is our own retailer who's using a telecom app. Now they use a telecom app for several purposes already, but now you're trying to make a new use case. Then you have to go back to this customer and see what kind of a journey would work for them. Do they have any kind of experience of a fintech product? What are their inputs on the design? You have to go back to this customer if you want to design a journey which would be acceptable by them. Now, once you have tested the designs, once you have gone to your customer who is going to use the app, and once you have taken their inputs, then just start designing the journey. And I know a journey which is like a loan dispersal journey can have 10 steps in it. And there are just too many number of ways you can improve a journey which has 10 steps, but do not waste that much amount of time to build a perfect product, because you need to ship it out as soon as possible and then take customer feedback. So the user journey will always need continuous improvement, but do not wait to ship out a perfect product. You have the designs, you A/B test among a smaller market, amongst a set of retailers. You ship, you get customer feedback, and then you repeat. You A/B test, you ship, you get customer feedback, and you repeat. Because there might be very similar journeys in some other use cases, but I believe loan dispersal or fintech journeys are one of the most complex ones. So do not wait till you have a journey which works for everyone. You're not going to get an answer sitting in your offices and just thinking about it. No design principle can answer this for you. So you have to ship it out as soon as the journey is available to you. Now, having said that, I want to just repeat that I believe every product or even a small feature can benefit a lot by going to the customer three times. The first is when you're trying to understand the problem. The second time is to get their inputs on an acceptable solution. And finally, the third time is to get their inputs on the design. Now, during this project, we did many things right, but we didn't do the last part right. We didn't go to the users before designing the user journey. We didn't go to our retailers who were going to help customers get onboarded on their app. It was very late in the process when we found out what was working and what was not working for the users of the app. We kept making the changes with every iteration, but getting the inputs before designing would have saved us a lot of time, a lot of resources, and a lot of heartbreak that comes when your product isn't performing as well as you want it to. So, as I said, we found out pretty late in the process what was not working for our users, but we kept iterating and we were able to finally have a product which was giving us decent numbers after some weeks or some months. And I'm incredibly proud of the work that the entire team did to launch this thing, because we were trying to solve a problem which was not just limited to our firm, but which could have improved the lives of millions and millions of our countrymen, people who even in 2018, 2019, 2020 were not able to afford a smartphone, and because of that were not able to become a part of the digital age. If you're not able to afford a smartphone in 2020, then your children cannot go to school in 2020. And we were extremely proud to have put out this solution and to see the initial conversion. It was slow. We were a telecom firm and people were not expecting us to have loan dispersal journeys, and it took some time for us to gather some steam and get the right customers in. But I was extremely proud of the work that we did, and it took a lot of work. It took a lot of researches to understand our customer, to understand the problem, but it was worth it in the end. We did something which was not expected of us, but we stuck to our guns. It took us over a year to launch something like that, but we finally did. We were the product entrepreneurs and we built a product solution for a common, not so easy business problem that the firm was having. To summarize, I would say, whenever you feel that you don't know the answer, always go back to your customer. Do not fall back on principles, do not fall back on frameworks, especially if you're a product entrepreneur. And secondly, lack of surety points to a lack of research, nothing else. There's no such thing as too much user research when you're trying to solve a complex problem. You cannot be a successful product entrepreneur by just copying the existing way of working of other firms, or whatever is happening outside, if you don't really understand the problem you're trying to solve. Always keep that in mind, and I believe these simple measures or these simple frameworks or tools will help you solve almost any problem. Now, thank you all for listening. You can send me your questions if you have any. I will try to get back to you as soon as possible, and have a nice day.